Produced by Podcast Architects.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, any animals that may be listening, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Get Better at Business. I'm Travis Richards. I'm sitting here today with Jacob Robinson. What is the weirdest thing that has happened to you so far this week?
I would say, I get the honor and privilege of running a theme park. And so I have been educated in the world of kid birthday parties. And so some of the requests we get, the demands sometimes that we get, things like, hey, can you make sure the pizza is not cut in 10 slices, but 12 slices? So I'm learning my skills, honing my skills at customer service and delivering a good product. And so every week I open up emails to no telling what I'm going to get. But we learn every day.
Well, it's just, you never know what you're going to run to as an entrepreneur. My most surprising thing this week, I was on my way out of the office and there is a freaking snake in the corner of my office, like in my office. No, absolutely not. I mean, and it was just like I'm just a wimp, it's like this little tiny, like rat snake or something like that. Not even a rat snake. Like this thing is not big enough to eat rats. It was, eating, crickets or something probably. But I get a broom and urge him out the door. And then I'm like a mile down the road and my phone in my pocket buzzes and I just about ran my car off the road because I was still so jumpy from seeing it. So,
Listen, you're better than me, man. I'll be honest with you. One, to even do a broom, I would have either, we're just going full shovel. I don't care how big the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, would have sold the office and moved. So yeah, that would have been the end of that.
Well,
I can do about anything in this world except for snakes. Rats, whatever. It is what it is. But snakes, no, thank you.
Everybody's got their things, and snakes. And I'm not a big snake fan, but I have a catch and release policy with spiders, and and snakes or whatever. It was just if I feel like it would have been a lot more hassle to try to kill it than it would have to just nudge it out the door.
Just get it out. There you go.
Yeah, there you have it.
Well, so, if I hear you screaming in a minute, I'll just know it's returned.
That's right. Yeah, and so if I just start jumping out of nowhere, it's because I have feared that the snake has returned for its revenge. And so,
that's right.
So Jacob's, so you got a couple of companies, which is always an interesting thing because, and so there are a lot of people that I know that would tell you should stay focused. You should do this one thing. And so you had a good thing going with One Stone, which whenever you can tell these stories or whatever, give us a little overview of what each of them are. But you had a good thing going, I think, One Stone. And then something possessed you to start basically an amusement park. And so why discard the advice of so many wise people who would tell you, stay focused, do your thing, have your one deal. It's even right there in the name, One Stone. And so why branch out into the other thing? Fascinated to hear why on earth you would do something like this.
Yeah, no, it's a question I ask myself every day. Right. And my wife asks it multiple times a day. But it's all jokes aside, it's an interesting question. I actually wrestle with it a lot. I was ironically talking to a guy this morning about that very thing, and learning more about myself. Right. I think I've accidentally discovered a lot about myself, and I talk about this to encourage entrepreneurs, but really to encourage really anybody. One, my fear is there's a lot of bent in today's society of, hey, everybody should go be an entrepreneur, work for yourself, don't work for the man, blah 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 blah. Man, I couldn't disagree with that more. I think certain people are cut out to do certain things, and I think the good Lord created us to do specific things. My dad ran large healthcare systems his entire career, so by definition, he worked for the man. Did very well working for the man, and I'm thankful for the people that worked alongside him. So I think that's one aspect of it. I stumbled into entrepreneurship by force, would be the way I say it. I was very blessed to get to know an individual. I coached his son in Little League Baseball, so it's a lesson in life. Always take the opportunities in front of you even when they don't make sense. And so, when a first grade boys baseball team at our church needed a coach, I was not married yet and had no kids, and I said, you know what? What the heck? I can't screw it up that bad, so let's just be a coach. And I didn't know I'd meet a guy named Mark Toon. I coached his son Hudson, who's still probably one of the best players I've ever coached to this day, even in first grade. And he and I just developed a relationship, friendship, mentorship, whatever you want to call it. A very successful career, software and technology, and just trying to figure out what do you want to do with kind of what he called the second half of his life, right? I mean, there's a book, Halftime, that I forget who wrote, but it's kind of said, what are you going to do with the second half of your life? And it's really geared towards giving back to the next generation. And so he took me to lunch one day, said, hey, listen, I've got an idea. I've been blessed. I would like to invest in younger entrepreneurs to start companies, and that way they get their MBA really kind of through the School of Hard Knocks. And he's like, so let me know what you would like to do. And I was like, well, listen, I don't want to do anything. I've got a good job. I don't want to go start a business. I'm about to have my first, Melissa and I are about to have our first son, our first kid. I just figured out this. I was selling insurance at the time. I just figured this thing out, just cracked the code. Feel like I got my feet underneath me. I've been doing it for a little over a year. I'm good, but thanks though. And so he said, well, I'll tell you what, just at least come up with some ideas for me, and then I'll go find some people. Okay, fine. I'll think of some ideas for you. So thought of this idea in the cleaning space, more geared towards construction cleaning, working for large general contractors. And I said, hey, listen, I think you can make money in this space. Good luck. And he said, great. When do you want to start? And I was like, again, you are not listening. I am not doing this. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, just go talk to Melissa about it tonight. I said, great. And as any good husband knows, the best way to get yourself out of it is make your wife the bad person. And so my wife is a CPA, by nature, risk adverse, highly intelligent individual. I knew she would say no to this crazy harebrained idea of go starting a company. So we went to dinner that night and I said, hey, listen, Mark's got a crazy idea. He thinks I should go start this company. And she said, hey, what's the worst that could happen? And I was like, that was not what you were supposed to say. And so my son was born on May 26, 2015. We started One Stone Solutions on June 1st, 2015. So I spent those first few weeks working out of our closet in my bedroom so that customers did not hear him crying in the other room, acting like I was at the office. And we've been blessed. And so we've been running that company for 7 years now. We have over 350 employees, multiple cities. We have a great team, great sales team, great supervisor team, managerial team, and we're blessed. But along the way, to answer your question, why did I deviate and go start something else and then start something else? I think I learned about myself. I enjoy starting things, and it's not that we can't finish things. This is what I've been wrestling with, and so if you're out there listening and you got any great wisdom, or you, Travis, you got any great wisdom, we can just turn this into a therapy session. But I've learned that hey, there's a skill set of taking something from 0 to 1. And then knowing that, hey, listen, I really that kind of peaks and maxes my leadership and entrepreneurial ability. What I can then go do is find the person that can go from 2 to 10, and I can get on board with you, and I can help grow it. I can help execute it. I'm not good at getting into the organizational flow charts, the meetings, and that kind of stuff. I love going from, hey, I've got a crazy idea, to getting the doors open. And then I'm going, okay, what's next? And so I've learned to attach myself to individuals that excel where I start to fall off. And so I've learned to say, hey, listen, I can come up with ideas. I can get the right people in the room. I can fortunately, so far we can raise the money and we can work our tails off to get something open. And then I need to hand it to you because you're much better at executing and learning just to be comfortable with who I am and how the Lord's created me. And so that's how I've ignored that advice, is saying and believing in this crazy notion that I've invented of maybe I'm good at passing along. But we've seen that we started a real estate company. But one of my best friends, we started a real estate company during COVID, and I have said, hey, listen, here's this idea. Here's the formation of it. Here's the people that need to put it together. Y'all go execute it. And not that I say, hey, listen, just send me the check on a big payday. We still work in it, but other people are calling the shots. And so we still have One Stone Solutions. I'm still the president of One Stone. I'm the founder of Dig World, which is a construction theme park where kids and adults get to operate real construction equipment. And then we've got a real estate company, Dryport Capital. And my worst fear has come true. By definition, I'm a serial entrepreneur. And so I'm learning to come to terms. What is it? First step's admitting you had a problem. And so that's
Yeah,
where I'm at.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because my personal entrepreneurial journey was very different. Like I always admire friends of mine that are entrepreneurs because a lot of them are also founders and started it from zero sales. Took it from nothing. And I bought a business that already existed, and where I had already been working and took it over. And I always tell, it's interesting. Whenever you said you're like a 0 to 1 guy, it's like I always have, as I have grown to know myself a little bit better, I recognize it's like, hey, I'm kind of more of like a 1 to 10. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking it from the very beginning or whatever, that's just not really, that's not my jam. And so I think that, I mean, you said somebody else needs wisdom. It sounds like you kind of got a pretty good handle on it, and that there's like, know thyself, right? And so just understanding what your strengths are and how you can leverage those. So I, this is, and so here's an interesting question where you mentioned that, early on in the conversation that this isn't for everybody. And it kind of like entrepreneurship has this sort of glorification to it of like, oh yeah, go out and start your own thing. But what is, everything stinks a little bit, right? Like nothing is all sunshine and rainbows all the time. And I think that whether you can be successful in anything depends on like, can you stomach this particular flavor of turd sandwich, right? I mean, is that everything is bad sometimes. So what is that thing about entrepreneurship, and especially taking these things from 0 to 1? What is that thing that you don't love about it, that's really hard and really challenging, but you have found that it's like, hey, I'm willing to embrace the suck in this particular aspect of starting a business?
Yeah. Yeah. No, man. Oh, great question. There's a lot of beauty in the suck, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably my problem, right? Is I'm probably addicted to that phase,
Mm.
in a very weird way. I think I'm addicted to like this idea of like, man, I want people to think I'm a little crazy, I guess. Which it was probably some other issues going on there, but I tell people all the time, I think the winners in entrepreneurship, really in business, even as a whole, I don't care if you're running a Fortune 500 company. It's not the people that ride the highs or ride the lows. It's the people that just stay right here in the middle, right? It depends. Like, hey, a win's a win. We're going to celebrate it, but we're not getting too big for our britches. And hey, listen, lows are going to come, and they may be low for a while, but hey, we're not going to get down in the dumps about it. We're just going to say, hey, we know what we're doing. We've got a good product. We've got a good system in place. We may need to make some tweaks, but we're going to ride the wave right here. I'm convinced those are the individuals that win in this game called business. And so my job as typically the visionary, the founder, whatever the role we see myself in, is saying, hey, how can I be this guy that maintains and keeps the team focused right here on this level playing field? And a lot of times that's just me and myself, right? It's just me and my thoughts. It's me talking with my wife. It's me trying to encourage and stay motivated and say, hey, no, this is a good idea. It will work. I mean, hey, listen, Dig World. It took us 4 years to raise the money. I thought it was going to take us 6 months. I told people it would take me 6 months. It took me 4 years. It took me 250 meetings of investors telling me no before we got 33 yeses, before my business partner and I did. 250 and COVID, throw COVID in there. We really were the crazy people of like, hey, let's build a theme park and put people all around each other. But really, so for me, what is that dirt sandwich? That dirt sandwich is fighting the good fight of telling this visionary story that I've got in my head, and people not catching on the first time, and walking away and going, oh man, that doesn't mean it's a bad idea. That doesn't mean it's never going to work. That just means maybe they weren't the right person to hear it. Now, there's also a fine line of hearing feedback and advice, right? And so you have to say, hey, listen, was that a good thought? Why did they say that? What was their pushback? And sometimes it's valid, right? Sometimes you need to tweak the pitch, or you need to tweak the returns, or whatever you're thinking. And some people have good ideas. You're like, I did not see that coming at all. It's a great idea. But some people just want to be Debbie Downers for the sake of being a Debbie Downer, right? Some people just have a hard time catching vision, and that is what it is. And so keeping the naysayers at a distance is something that I talk about often. And keeping that circle around you of people that can push you and support you. So those dirt sandwiches are when I walk away and people want to get down, they just want to go through the financial models only. I'm not a financial guru. And so I'm like, no, meet me back up here. Let's talk about the fun. Let's talk about the memories we're going to make and the smiles we're going to create. Let's not talk about that 22% IRR that you're worried about in 4 years. Cause I get all confused thinking about it anyway. So that's some of it, but then too, it's the mundane, right? It's setting up this legal entity to make sure I get this stuff to the CPA. Those are things I'm not great at. I'm very blessed that we've got the right team we can pull in now. We've got kind of a system, but it's really that kind of stuff.
Well, and also, especially if you're starting out, it's kind of like in that 0 to 1 phase, you can't lean on other people because there's nobody else there. It's like, that's kind of the definition of being at 0. And, one of the things that I've recognized as a strength for me is like recognizing when I need to fire myself from something. But, but early on, it's like, dude, it's one thing to make that decision of like, hey, I need to fire myself whenever you're running a company that is profitable and has, good cash flow and you can afford to do that. It's a different thing where it's like, look, man, the sales have got to come from somewhere. And if you're not a salesman, it's like, well, there's nobody else here. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's that commercial where the guy, the phone rings and he says, yeah, let me transfer you to the marketing department. And he puts it on hold and he answers again. He's like, yeah, it's marketing department. Right. Like that, that's it. Everybody has to do it. But when you need to fire yourself, I sent a pitch deck to a guy a couple weeks ago and I said, listen, the deck's not going to be great. I don't do that stuff very well. So I don't even give me that as a feedback. Just fix it. And let's move on because I'm terrible at it. I acknowledge that I'm not good at it, but I also acknowledge that somebody needed to do it to get it going.
Yeah. Well, so, you ever have any bad ideas?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I
listen, I say it statistically is like this. My wife and I, we go on walks most evenings with our kids. And more times than not, I'm spitting off some other idea. We've been married 10 years. I've started 3 companies. So we've gone on a lot of walks. That'll tell you how many bad ideas that I've had.
Well, did you get any that made it past that initial filter of your wife where you were like kind of where you thought that it was a good idea. And then whenever you took it out into the marketplace, it wasn't one of these situations where, hey, we just need to tweak it. It's still a good idea. We still just need to find the right person, but you took it to the market and you came back and you're like, dude, I guess it was a bad idea.
Yeah. There's an idea that I've been kicking around for the last 6 years that, it's going to fall in one of 2 categories. It will be a dumb idea, and that will continue to prove true, or it's just not the right time. And it's not that I have some like revolutionary, like groundbreaking, thing, whatever it is. It's more of either my mental space and people they're not hearing it enough from me. I haven't developed the idea enough. Like I've got it up here in my head, but I can't get it out here. And so that just may be a me thing, that may be a timing thing, or the idea will continue to prove to not be a good idea. And I'll just, every now and then I kind of pull it out of the shelf and I kind of float it back out there. It kind of gets a couple things going and then it just kind of peters off again. So I've got those all the time.
Well, I love that, man, is that it's just like, hey man, maybe it's not no, it's just not now. And you think one of my younger brother used to talk about this all the time is that he's like, if I could go back and, it's like, if I could go back in time and do these things, I'm sure that he would do things like, prevent tragedies and, all that kind of stuff or whatever. But for the sake of this argument, he says, it's like, I would go back and invent wheeled luggage like in 1960. And it's like, here's the deal though, is that kind of to that point, it's like, dude, there was somebody that was out there that was floating this idea of, dude, you don't have to carry your bag. You could just put it on wheels and drag it behind you. And there's probably some dude that was out pitching, whatever that looked like back in the, in the 50s.
And he was just crazy.
And he was a nut. He was a total nut. And it wasn't, wasn't a bad idea. It was just like, hey, look, man, you're just a decade or two too early.
That's it.
And
I think your brother's exactly right. And I was listening to this podcast the other day, one, I love the story. I mean, forget their financials right now. I'm a subscriber of it, but Peloton, I know they're kind of tanking right now. But if you listen, their guy, he went through. I think the average was 3 years, 3 meetings a day before he heard his first yes on investors. That guy still got it across the finish line. Back it up a few years, the guy that developed Noom, the weight loss program, his first invention was actually a workout bike that you had in your house that was streamed workout to you, and couldn't get any traction on it. It was the craziest idea ever. Everybody told him he was stupid. Nobody's ever going to put that in their house. Nobody wants to work out from home, all this kind of stuff. And so they built a prototype and then it just tanked, and he shut it down. Dumbest idea ever. Insert the Peloton guy, and then now he's off to the races, right? And so it's just, it was the right idea, just not the right time.
It's just, and I think that is a good mindset to have, where it's just like, hey, is it not the right, is the market ready for it? Am I, and then I guess here's another question too, is that it's like, have you ever had an idea where it's like, it's not like it wasn't the right time from the market's perspective, but it wasn't the right time for you, where it was like, hey, this is a good idea and I think the market would work, but it's like, hey, the skill set that someone is going to need to get this out and to actually make this turn into reality, it's like, I don't have that yet.
Yep.
It's like, have you ever had any of those where you're just like,
again, I think I'm sitting in it right now with a buddy that called me before I joined you. We've got 2 ideas that we love. And we both, I think, are both probably nervous to admit, like, I just can't do it right now. Like, we know it'll work. We know it's a great idea. We're, again, not reinventing the wheel. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, I can't do it. I'm trying to run a theme park and help with a cleaning business and a real estate company get going. I've got 2 kids, and it's one of those things where I'm like, it's going to work, just not right now. And that's really frustrating, right? Because the skill set currently is time. Right. It's not even like, we could go do it. It's time. And again, it's not that I'm just so busy that I have no time to do whatever. That's one of my pet peeves when people tell me they're too busy. You're not that busy. It's more of, what are you going to have to cut off in your life to go do that? Right. Like, I'm going to have to say no to something to say yes to something. And I just, at this point, those things that I just listed, at this point, I'm not willing to say no to any of those to go do this. Yes. Right now is how I would look at it.
Yeah. So as somebody that's got, you've obviously, we talked about the companies a little bit, and, you also mentioned that you got a family and presumably some other interests outside of that, but, do you have something that it's something like, I guess here's my question. From the outside, somebody's just like, all right, man, it's like, you've got this cleaning company and then you've got this amusement park with construction equipment. And on the surface, it looks like you're doing 2 completely different things, where it just like, it seems like this guy's all over the map. Do you see it that way? Or do you see something where it's like, no, actually there is this unifying principle where these seemingly disparate things, this company, that company, these new ideas that I'm exploring, my family life, my, service life, my hobbies, like whatever that is, do you find that there is a unifying principle where you're like, no, man, it's like from the inside, these are all contributing to one another?
Dude, man, I didn't realize today was going to be a therapy session. I like this. This is good. No, because you've tapped in, and I think this is always important. Every entrepreneur has a lot of fears, right? Everybody has fears. But I think a lot of people think entrepreneurs are these just like, we're going to crush through 30 walls today. Listen, if you find that person that is not replaying fears in their mind constantly, you probably shouldn't work with those person, because they're probably crazy. Or they're not realistic. One of the
or they're not, or they have no self-awareness,
or zero self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And so I look at it this way. One of my fears is that when I sit down with people, they go, oh man, here comes Jacob. No telling what crazy idea he's going to shoot off into today. And here's the deal. Yes, they are all over the place. The reason that the 3 things started are all very specific stories, but the underlying, the commonality down the middle of it all is everything that we're doing between the 3 companies is we're serving somebody. Where as long as I can be in a service-based customer interaction business, that's what I love. If somebody came to me genuinely today, was like, hey, let's invent this technology company, I'd actually have to think long and hard about it, because it doesn't wake me up in the morning and get me fired up. What I want to go do is figure out how we can serve people. And that, I know that's cheesy, I know it's cliche, but the hospitality umbrella, right? That's what I love to be. Like, if I could own a bunch of hotels one day and just walk around and listen to where people are from, hear your story, hear why you came to this property, that's what I want to do. So in cleaning, can we solve a problem? Yeah, we can solve a problem. Listen, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're cleaning buildings. But what I get to do in that business is I tell our sales guys this all the time. Every time you sell an account, yes, I want you to calculate your commission because that's important. Then I want you to calculate how many jobs you just created for a family. And then that is a life-changing thing for individuals. And that's what we get to do. We get to serve those people and while doing a service. The theme park. The greatest thing for me tomorrow when I go work at the theme park is I work the front gate. The reason I want to work the front gate is I want to welcome everybody to it. I want to know how you got here. I want to know what you're fired up to do, and I want to go help you execute that. That brings me joy to say, hey, listen, it's a tough business, customer service. Because listen, tomorrow I'm going to hear a bunch of complaints. I know it already. Anything from my favorite one. This is my favorite one. Hey, it's really hot outside. Yes, I know. I'm working on it. I'm going to get complaints all across the board, but I'm also going to get to watch kids live out dreams and parents have a good time with their kids and grandparents have great times with their grandkids. And so that's what fires me up. Our real estate venture, we get to provide a service to an underserved market in the 18-wheeler industry that puts these guys back in the forefront of saying, hey, what do you need? You need this, we're going to deliver this product for you. And we're going to serve you. We're going to be here for you. We're going to help take care of you. And that's the theme down the middle. If I can be a part of a business that serves somebody and a customer, and I can actually interact with that customer, I'm way more prone to be in that business than I am something else. There's nothing wrong with those other businesses. Frankly, you probably make
No,
a lot
not at
more
all.
money in those other businesses, but I enjoy that battle every day of like, hey, listen, can we deliver a product that's going to change somebody's day, maybe even life?
What is I mean, I'm sure that you got a lot, but as you reflect back on some of the times where you have made a difference and like what stands out to you as this, specific example of like, if someone were to question you, it's like, hey, why are you in and pick whichever one you like. It's like, why are you in this business? Like, what's that one thing that you say, dude, that's it. This dude, this gal, this smile, just let me hear your favorite. That's
oh man, I get I get chill bumps thinking about it already. That's an easy answer. So when we created the theme park, the reason the theme park was created is my son. I have a 7-year-old son named Pierce. Pierce was born healthy with no issues. At 2 years old, he contracted bacterial meningitis overnight. We woke him up unconscious in his crib, rushed him to the hospital. What we would have later learned is he should have died on the way to the hospital. He was in a medically induced coma for 12 days. They didn't know that they would be able to get him out of his coma. He came out of his coma. We were in the hospital 75 days total. And when we left, he left with significant brain damage. Pierce no longer talks. He's deaf in both ears. He is in a wheelchair. He has about 200 seizures a day in the mental capacity of a 1 to 2 year old. And so our world got turned upside down quite literally overnight to where I have a special needs son that'll live with me the rest of his life. And that's one of my greatest honors in life. It's also one of my greatest challenges in life. And so when we created the theme park, I created with individuals like him in mind. I wanted to create experiences for everybody. And so our theme park is for everybody. But one of the things that I said we were going to do, and I was excited that we delivered on it last month, we're about to deliver on it again next week, is we created special needs night. And the premise behind it was that I would go out and raise money for somebody to underwrite the evening, pay for everybody to come. Because what I wanted was if you have a special needs kid in your family, I want your entire family to come. Because, yes, I want to take care of those special needs kids. I love them. They're near and dear to my heart. But it's the siblings that sometimes get forgotten. Because they don't get to necessarily go do things because of brother or sister, right? Annie, I have a 2-year-old daughter. Annie does not get to do some things because Pierce can't go do some things. And that's just life, right? And I think Annie will be better for it one day, but at the end of the day, she's a kid, right? And it's hard to rationalize that at 2 years old and 7 years old or whatever it may be. So we sent out this email. We didn't know the response we would get. We said, hey, listen, if you got any special needs kid, come, and their siblings get to come for free. Within 3 hours, we had over 500 people sign up for the event, and we sold out. So we just announced this next one, and where I manage all the emails that come in for people reserving tickets, and the emails and the paragraphs that I get of, hey, our family's never been able to do something like this. Our family couldn't financially afford to be able to do something like this. And their siblings don't get to do things like this. And a night that focuses on them, that's why we do what we do. That's why I will deal with every complaint you want to throw at me. That's why I will fight the good fight, and I'll sell field trips, birthdays, and events, and whatever it is, so that we can have nights like that. So those memories, those kids that get to come, that's getting to do what my dad and I refer to as sacred work, right? We get to do sacred work, and it's humbling. It's awesome. Brings me tears, and it's one of the many reasons I get out of bed in the morning. And so that's really the story of how the park came to be is through Pierce, but how we're leaving a legacy through our special needs nights is one of the many ways that I think we're helping change lives.
Wow. I am not often speechless, man.
Well,
That is incredible. That's really incredible. And so I guess like we were talking earlier about how, entrepreneurship is kind of glorified as this thing, and it's, become kind of a popular thing that people wanting to be an entrepreneur. I guess, what I'm going to take away from this conversation, and, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, is that, we get to be creators, and being an entrepreneur allows you to create kind of in a different way than you do in just, your own personal life. Like, the power of business, I guess, kind of allows you this opportunity to create. And just thinking about hearing that story, just recognizing how powerful that is and how sacred that is. And it's just like, dude, you have all of this power, and what are you going to do with it? And like, man, dude, what an incredible story. What an incredible story.
Well, thank you. To answer your question, like, or to respond to that, like, I mean, if you think about that, I think a lot of people miss that. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head of, yeah, hey, go create a business. That's cool. But if you're not computing the tangible impact, I mean, think about this, for example, like, we're fortunate that people come to our theme park. So yes, we get to make money, but I get to help a high school kid. So two different ways to impact people's lives in one company. I get to impact a high school kid it comes from a great family has means, whatever. I get to help that kid save for his first car. That's a pretty cool experience. I also have a kid that I just hired the other day whose mom said, hey, listen, I lost my second job. I need you to help out with some bills. I know you're a sophomore in high school, but I need you to help me out. And so now we get to help that family out by employing that sophomore kid. That's a heavy load for that kid. That's a tough battle and a tough weight to bear. But you know what? We get to help lighten that load a little bit by saying, hey, you can work here, and we're going to give you a great place to work. We're going to pay you well. We're going to treat you well. And hopefully we could make you forget for a couple hours that you've got this heavy burden and that you get to have a good time at work. And that's all within one company. And so if you lose perspective of that, entrepreneurship becomes even more of a lonely journey than it is. And when you remind yourselves of those crazy things that we are absolutely blessed to be a part of, that's not a toot your own horn thing. It's a re-energizing thing to say, hey, that's what I'm called to do. If I can go do this task, then this happens. Great. That's a worthy cause. So let's pick up our stuff and let's go to battle every day. But if you forget those things and either becomes about your almighty dollar or your resume or your reward, it's going to run out pretty quick, in my opinion.
I think that you're right. And, I was talking with a friend of mine about this the other day, and, he was encouraging people, he's an entrepreneur, he has a very cool company called Regal Plastics. And he's his name's Chad Gano. Good dude. And he posts a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and his company has a very, very powerful culture. And he was encouraging people that it's like, hey, whenever you are interviewing with someone, find out what their purpose is beyond money. And as an outcome of that conversation, I've never tested this. And so I don't know if it's good advice or not, but I was thinking, a good question that you could ask somebody, especially if you're working at a company where you do get to interview with the owner, you get to meet him, ask us like, hey, what would happen if you came across some kind of a crazy windfall and you suddenly had 2 or 3 times the amount of profit that you expected? what would you do? Like, like it wasn't handed to you personally, but the company you were expecting to make $1 million in profit. And you made 2. What would you do with it? So I guess I'll ask you that question. I'm curious to know what you say. It's like, let's just say that Dig was, projected to make, again, simple numbers to say, was projected to make $1 million in profit this year. And something crazy happened and you made 2. What would you do with that $1 million extra that showed up?
Yeah, well, I think my investors would make sure I paid them back first. But to answer,
sure, of course, yeah.
To get to the heart of your question, I would like to believe that I would do on a bigger scale what we've been doing on a smaller scale. Our director of, we just promoted her to general manager. The general manager of our park, Amanda, phenomenal. She crushes it. And her heartbeat at the beginning was, hey, I believe, and my business partner and I, she's like, hey, listen, I pick up from you guys that I think we can create a culture that gives back and creates experiences for our employees. So what she did, she went to the movie theater that's near our site and said, hey, listen, what would it cost for me to rent this out? And we took all the set. We had a profitable quarter or a profitable month. Hey, we're going to take you all to the movie. And we rented out the theater and we went and saw some. It was a terrible movie. I didn't like it, but we went. They loved it. It was some Avengers movie that I didn't watch, like the 97 sequels or pre-sequel or whatever I'm supposed to watch.
Yeah.
But
Lost.
That's it. Didn't understand it all. They loved it. And then 2 months later, at the end of the summer, we said, hey, it's been a hot summer. You guys have done a great job. We rented a bus and we took them all to an Astros game. And the amount of kids that we took to an Astros game that had never been to an Astros game kind of blew my mind. And it was awesome to watch it. So I would like to so we're creating those outside of the work experiences for them. I would like to believe we would do something like that on a bigger scale. And all indicators are, if Amanda's still the general manager, we would be doing something like that. Because if I made that much extra in profit, I'm pretty dang sure it's because it's what our Google reviews say. The number one consistent thing that you see on Google about us is how great our staff is. And so we're blessed. And if I'm not smart enough to realize that, they'll leave pretty quick, in my opinion.
Well, and I think that it's also like, I think I would revise that advice now. It's like, cause really, it's like, you don't even have to ask the question, because like, here's the thing. And, that, you're dealing with investors and probably talking to some folks that are extremely blessed and have got a good amount of money in their pocket. And money doesn't really change people, man. It just makes them more of who they already were. And I think that probably it's true. The same is true with companies, where it's like, hey, you're doing special needs nights, you're taking the team out, you're doing all, it's like a bunch of extra money is not going to change what you're doing. You're just going to probably do what you were already doing in a big way. And that can be good or bad. And it's just like, hey, look, man, if every freaking sweaty red dime is going into the entrepreneur's pocket, if there's more of it, they would just go more into the pocket. That's all that there is to it. But if they're reinvesting and they're doing things that are important and impactful, they'll probably just continue to do those in a bigger way. So, well, dude, I along those lines, I really hope that all of your ventures are very, very successful, so that you can continue to do what you're doing in a bigger way. It's very cool. And it just unbelievable. I get to ask people a lot about, like their entrepreneur origin story. I think this is by far the most powerful one that I've ever heard. And so I wish you and all your teams just the most freaking success that y'all can handle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, man, so let's wrap it up here. If people wanted to find you, if they wanted to get information about any of your companies, how they can contribute to the awesome stuff that you're doing for the special needs community there in Houston with Dig World, like where can folks find you? We'll get it all in the show notes, but tell us how we can reach out and connect.
Yeah, I'm a pretty open book. I'm not great at responding on LinkedIn messages, but I do check them every now and then. So you can ping me on there. digworldtx.com. Fun fact about Entrepreneur is we have a bunch of email addresses. I manage most of them. And so if you emailed the generic info account, you're probably going to find me answering it. But I'm a pretty simple open book guy. So jacobrobinson11@gmail.com. If you want to reach out to me personally, I'd love to hear from you. I'm here to jump in the trenches with you, encourage you, support you, push you along, tell you exactly what I've done wrong. And I'd be happy to do so.
Well, awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story and sharing your wisdom with us. It's been a great conversation. And like all great conversations, you have left me with a lot to think about. And I hope that everyone listening, you got a lot out of it as well. And so, Jacob, thank you for joining us. Listeners, thank you for listening. And Jacob, we'll see you around. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Produced by Podcast Architects.